My dad can buy you.
Started like any other day in court. The soft echo of footsteps, the quiet rustle of papers, the calm before another routine hearing. But then everything changed. A teenage boy in an expensive suit leaned back in his chair, arrogance in every gesture. And when he opened his mouth, the entire courtroom froze. One sentence. 5 words. My dad can buy you. Gasps broke the silence. But the judge didn't flinch. He just looked at the boy, calm, silent, and unshaken. No one knew that before this hearing ended, privilege would meet justice in a way the world would never forget. Judge Marcus Hale had seen it all. Decades on the bench, thousands of cases, faces that came and went like echoes in a courtroom. But even after 30 years, he still believed in something rare: change. To him, justice wasn't about punishment. It was about reflection, about reminding people who they were supposed to be. That morning had started like any other. The courthouse buzzed with quiet chatter, the scent of coffee and polished wood filling the air. Marcus reviewed his docket, unaware that one name would test everything he stood for. Ethan Ward, 17, the only son of a powerful businessman. His father's money stretched far: donations, influence, connections. Ethan's reputation was no secret. Schools, neighbors, even the police had learned to look the other way. Arrogant, entitled, untouchable. To most people, Ethan's court appearance that day was just another spoiled kid facing minor charges. But to Marcus, there was something deeper in those eyes. A challenge, almost daring him to play along with the system that always protected people like him. As Ethan entered the courtroom, dressed in a tailored navy suit, his confidence filled the room before he even spoke. Cameras flashed. His father wasn't there, he never needed to be. Marcus adjusted his glasses, watching the boy with quiet curiosity. He didn't know it yet, but this wouldn't be another routine hearing. In less than an hour, this courtroom would witness something no one expected: the fall of entitlement and the rise of truth. The hearing began quietly, just another case on the docket. Judge Hale adjusted his robe, his calm presence commanding silence without ever raising his voice. Ethan lounged in his chair, scrolling through his phone, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. To him, this was a joke. A brief inconvenience before his father's lawyer worked another miracle. The prosecutor presented the charges: reckless driving, property damage, and resisting arrest. The evidence was solid: video footage, police reports, even witnesses. But Ethan barely listened. His eyes wandered across the courtroom, locking briefly on the judge. That's when he noticed. The judge was black. Something shifted in his smirk. Curiosity, maybe even amusement. He leaned back, whispering something to his lawyer, who quickly hushed him. But Ethan's ego had already taken over. When the first witness was called, Ethan's mockery became subtle but constant. An eye roll here, a stifled laugh there. Each time, the judge's gaze met his with steady calm, never anger. The courtroom noticed, though. Cameras caught everything. As the prosecutor laid out the facts, Ethan's lawyer tried to soften the tone. He's young, Your Honor, from a good family. He made mistakes, but nothing serious. Marcus listened quietly, hands folded. Then he asked one question. Mr. Ward, do you understand the gravity of your actions? Ethan barely looked up. Yeah, sure, he muttered. But let's be honest, this'll be over soon. My dad handles these things. A soft murmur spread across the room. Marcus didn't react. He simply nodded. I see. The next 15 minutes revealed more than any statement could. Witnesses spoke of near collisions. A security guard described Ethan's laughter as he sped off, and a bystander shared how police hesitated before arresting him, recognizing the last name Ward. Still, Ethan seemed untouchable. His confidence grew with every word, as if the process itself was beneath him. And then he said it. When the judge asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, Ethan leaned forward, his tone dripping with arrogance. Yeah, he said, grinning. My dad can buy you. For a moment, silence consumed the courtroom. The prosecutor froze mid-breath. Even the guards turned. Gasps rippled through the air, breaking the stillness. But Judge Hale didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice or call for order. He simply studied the boy, calm, unshaken, almost sorrowful. In that stillness, something unspoken hung heavy between them. Years of history, of men who believed money could buy everything, including dignity. The judge leaned forward slightly, his tone steady. "Mr. Ward," he said quietly, "you may want to reconsider those words." Ethan shrugged, unbothered. "I said what I said." A reporter's flash went off in the back of the room, and suddenly, the moment was everywhere. Phones recording, whispers spreading. But no one knew what was coming next. Judge Hale looked down at the file, then back at Ethan. "Very well," he said softly. "Let's proceed." Ethan grinned, thinking he'd won. Thinking this judge would back down like all the others. But what came next would strip away every ounce of arrogance he carried. And in 30 short minutes, the boy who thought he could buy justice would learn exactly what it costs to lose it. The courtroom stayed silent long after Ethan's words faded. You could almost hear hearts beating, slow, heavy, uncertain. Judge Hale sat motionless, eyes fixed on the boy who had just crossed a line he didn't even understand. Finally, the judge spoke. His voice was calm, deliberate, steady enough to make the silence feel deafening. "Mr. Ward," he said, "stand up." Ethan did, half smirking, half bored. He thought this was just theater, another lecture before a fine and an apology. Cameras were still rolling. Everyone waited. "Do you know?" the judge continued. "How many young men I've seen stand where you are? Men who didn't have your name, or your money, or your color, and never walked out again?" Ethan shifted uneasily. For the first time, that calm voice carried something that pierced straight through the arrogance. "You think wealth is power. But in this room," the judge said, leaning slightly forward, "power belongs to truth." He reached for the file before him and began to read. Not Ethan's record, but his father's. Old civil suits, tax evasion rumors, cover-ups. None of it had been mentioned in court before, but the implications were clear. Ethan's smirk cracked. His lawyer rose in protest, but the judge's raised hand silenced him. "This isn't about your father, Mr. Ward," he said. "It's about what kind of man you choose to become." Then, slowly, he delivered the verdict. "Given the evidence and your own words under oath, I hereby sentence you to 30 days in county detention, effective immediately." Gasps filled the room. Ethan's lawyer shouted. The cameras flashed like lightning. The boy who thought he owned the room was now trembling. His designer suit suddenly too heavy. Officers stepped forward. For the first time in his life, Ethan's privilege couldn't shield him. The cuffs clicked, cold against his wrists. And as he was led away, his eyes met the judge's one last time. No hatred, no anger, just realization. In that quiet moment, the meaning of justice became painfully clear. For 30 days, the courtroom's arrogance faded behind concrete walls. The boy who once strutted in designer suits now wore a plain orange uniform. The cameras that had once captured his smirk now captured silence. Headlines turned to debates, and debates turned into lessons. Ethan Ward spent those days away from his world of comfort. No phone, no special treatment, no father's influence to smooth things over. Just time. Time to think, to face himself, to understand what he'd said and what it meant. When he returned to court for review, he was different. The same blue eyes, the same expensive haircut, but something behind them had changed. His shoulders were lower, his voice quieter. When the judge asked if he had learned anything, Ethan didn't smirk this time. He simply said, "Yes, Your Honor. I learned what money can't buy." The courtroom stayed still again, not from shock, but from understanding. Because sometimes justice doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it only needs to show. Judge Hale closed the file, offering a small nod. Not of victory, but of hope. For him, it wasn't about humiliation or revenge. It was about truth, and giving one young man the chance to see the world beyond his privilege. That day, a story that began with arrogance ended with awareness. And the world took notice, not because of who was punished, but because of what was revealed. This wasn't just a story about a boy and a judge. It was a reminder that respect has no price tag and justice has no owner. So maybe the question isn't whether Ethan changed. Maybe the real question is, when privilege speaks louder than respect, who among us has the courage to stay silent, and who dares to stand for what's right?